Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Thursday night. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft, so why not talk about guys who in 3 to 4 years might actually be in the NFL draft? It is the Devy Hour. It's Thursday night. If you didn't watch last week, we are back to talking Devys because we've talked enough about NFL rookies. We've been talking about them in all the other shows as well. So we're going to do what actually this show's about, which is Devys. We got a fun one tonight. We're talking freshman running backs. So we've got a laundry list, and there's plenty. You know, there's hundreds that have made it to college, but we've got a few that we want to talk about that we think could be guys that you want to target in your deeper Devy leagues. These could be some names to watch. It's going to be a fun one tonight, so make sure, drop a like, drop a comment, ask your questions. We will answer any questions you've got. They don't have to just be Devy related, but if you've got a Devy question, we're going to answer it. And I actually have a Devy question tonight that we are going to talk about because I just don't know what to do. So, it's a fun night tonight. Mr. Veldboom, it is Thursday. How are we doing, brother?
I'm glad it's almost Friday. This week's been really long. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the weekend here, play a little cards, and how's your week been? I know, but the people don't.
It's definitely been a long week. I'm ready for the weekend, and I'm ready for the weekend. Ready to just kind of power down a little bit. Work's been crazy. All the things have been crazy. Getting ready for the NFL draft stuff here with RotoHeat's been busy and time consuming. So it's a long week, but I'm glad that we're finally to the point where we're getting to the draft and we're going to get past it and get to the fun stuff, which is rookie drafts. Rookie drafts are always a good time, and they'll be starting, a week and 3 days from now in a lot of leagues, and even the Monday after the draft. So it'll be fun. It'll be hot and heavy here coming up quick. I do want to remind the people that I've told you on the other shows this week, if you do happen to stumble across this and you haven't watched the other shows yet, the last 2 weeks we've been having special guests on and doing mock drafts. We had JJ Zacharyson on 2 weeks ago to do a 1QB. We had Steffi Smalls on Tuesday to do Superflex. Check those out if you need some help getting ready for your rookie drafts. But also, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night after the drafts, we are going to go live here on the RotoHeat on YouTube and mock draft. So we are going to probably go a little bonkers and maybe do some things that people aren't expecting, but we're gonna do live mock drafts after. We're gonna get the team together and do that. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you've subscribed to RotoHeat here on YouTube so that you can watch when we go live. We've also got plenty of rookie content. If you guys needed that, look through the history. We got a bajillion videos here. So we got a lot to offer. We got a lot to help you guys. Make sure you share this content wherever you can. I would appreciate that because the world won't know about us if you're not sharing us, right? So we love you guys. We thank you for that. With that being said, let's get to it. So I have a trade question that I've been struggling with. I've got a league that you and I are both in, and there's an owner that keeps trying to get Kellen Mond. I don't really know what to do with him because I'm just sitting on him to see what happens with the draft. My hope was maybe he goes somewhere sexy and I can flip him. Well, I've got an owner that keeps asking me what I want for him. And I'm like, right now, I don't really know. So I said, okay, what is on the table? Like, what are you willing to move? So right now, the conversation is Van Jefferson plus an IDP. Like,
Sold.
well, but now the troubling part is what IDP. I don't really need safety help.
No,
What?
that's not the troubling aspect. The troubling aspect should have been convincing him to flip Jefferson in the first place. Yes, I'm wearing a Florida State hat, but when Jalen Ramsey says someone's good, I listen. And he says that he's a quality player, so I'm listening.
Well, I'm getting an IDP on top of it. I just got to figure out which one.
Any IDP, who cares?
Fine.
Make the trade.
Fine.
Make the trade.
All right, fair enough. Now I've got 4 different IDPs to choose between, so I just have to figure out which one I want. And that was the hardest part is I just don't know which IDP to choose from. But on the other side of it, if Kellen Mond goes somewhere where I can flip him for more come next Saturday or Sunday, that's what I keep sitting at him and Han on. Because you listen to a lot of talking heads. There's some teams that want to take him and try to develop him, this, that, and the other. And I've never been a big Kellen Mond fan. But if the hype becomes real, like,
As the one who sat here 12 months ago and absolutely dumped on Jordan Love, and then ultimately ended up with him in a couple Superflex leagues because he fell so far, he went in the first. If Mond makes it to the third round, which I think is probably like a 99% certainty, I don't think we can reasonably sit there and go, okay, he starts for this team in a couple years.
no, not at all.
And I would just rather have the Van Jefferson flex option ish, hoping he's a flex. I'm just saying that he's probably in the flex discussion
Well,
next
I mean,
year. But
on my team, he's because I'm still rebuilding. I mean, he's
oh yeah,
playable in certain situations. I'm sure of that.
yeah,
I mean, I'll be going into the league year with one quarterback and a super flex. Like I'm still not playing to win this year. It's still a growing situation for me. But I've kept him and Han because I'm like, Mon feels like that guy because of the athletic profile. That if somebody takes him and the hype becomes real, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm never going to own another share of this guy. Maybe there's something, maybe I can get more out of. Maybe I can keep squeezing the juice a little bit harder on this guy. And so, all right, you talk me into it. You made it seem like crazy to think otherwise. So,
yeah, the plus is not relevant for me.
okay, there it is. My question really wasn't a question. Paul said, "Why would you waste so much time to say yes?"
Correct.
And this is some of the tough thing on Devy rosters because there's times where I just sit here on a guy and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I know I don't care for especially in this case. I know I don't necessarily love the player, but people are starting to hype him up, and maybe he gets overdrafted based on what I would consider would be a safe range for him in the NFL draft. Well, then he's worth a little bit more. Do I sit and take that gamble? I mean, you know, lately I've been working on practicing the long game in all things, even in fantasy football. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
I mean, every year the first 50 selections usually give me 4 or 5 real surprises. He pretty much has to fall in there for me to consider flipping the other side. And even if he goes, between 40 and 50 overall, he's then an immediate flip again for me. Like, I just would rather take the small win versus if he goes in round 5, you're going to get flat nothing for him. Like, he'll be dropped. So,
right, no, true story. So I'll take what I can get. Won't complain. Okay, so that was the question. That was my question. Um, and I've been trying, and that's been the funny thing. I haven't really worked trade markets much in fantasy in the last 2-3 months since the season ended, really, and since the trade deadline. So getting back into the swing of things, I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like,
yeah.
man, ro- fantasy being a fantasy football analyst, whatever you want to call us, like it's really taking up a lot of my time. Watching a lot of film, getting ready for stuff, like ugh.
Devy's a lot harder because who watched what film when matters. Like, hey, did you watch? And I like D. Eskridge. Did you watch him before? Or if you're asking about the player, all right, what do you know that I don't? It's not like, hey, I'll flip you this for your early second. It's not the same when you're asking about an actual player.
Right. No, very true. True story. So, with that being said, if you guys have questions and you're in the chat, feel free to shoot them over. It doesn't have to be just Devy. We'll answer whatever questions you got, as always. Um, we're talking running backs tonight. We're talking freshman running backs. So this is going extremely deep. If you're somebody who's trying to get into Devy and you're trying to do kind of the deeper dive into players, I would recommend, if you need somewhere to start, 247 Sports. Uh,
Rivals is fine
Yep,
also.
Rivals 247. They will give you by year kind of the top, bajillion. So you can use that. For me, I also go even deeper. I go to Max Preps in some of these places to get the high school kids. So, you can go as deep as you want to go. There are sites to help you out. Just a friendly tidbit from your neighborhood Devy analysts over here. If you need help, there's sites out there that can give you a list of players to begin looking up, and that's kind of where you could start at if you needed help. Otherwise, RotoHeat.com, we've got our Devy rankings that will be getting updated as we get through the off season. Jaws, it's good to see you, buddy, bro. So yeah. So who's your first running back? I'll give you the honors. What do you want to talk about?
Well, this one's about a 1 foot putt here. Travion Henderson. As much as you don't, yeah, no, shocking. Yeah,
Great.
he sinks the 1 footer.
Joe's coming out now. Ugh.
Yeah, we better get off of him fast, or he can sell me his XFL cards, whatever. Every year
All can be bought.
there are, when you head to Rivals 247, 4-letter network that's owned by Disney that sucks. If you go to any of these, you're gonna find every year there's about 0 to 3 to 4 kids every year who you think, all right, you can go from high school and make an NFL practice squad. You're not going to be good or anything, but you're not going to be like the worst player on the practice squad in the NFL.
No.
And Travion Henderson is that kid. He doesn't have elite size, but when you're looking out a couple years, he should. And he just frankly has the speed, the acceleration, and the footwork that you just don't teach. He's almost like a Dalvin Cook, and I know he ran a 4.5 4. So what? He just has so much functional speed that he really scares you. It's not a matter of if you like Henderson, it's how much. And I've seen some non-super flex mocks where he goes first round, and that's overall. That's pretty lofty, and I can't say that I disagree with it.
Well, I mean, look at the profile. I mean, he dominated throughout high school, track and field athlete. I mean, and you're starting to see it more in the NFL game, especially. Listen to guys like the Bruce Arians of the worlds, who say there's a difference between that number you see on the screen, the 4.5, 4.6, whatever, and the play speed. There's a difference. And Henderson's a guy that is going to continue to prove that. He doesn't have to be the fastest guy on the field. He's electric. I mean, he can pass catch very nicely. He's a great runner. He attacks the defense. I mean, there's quite a few plays I watched where he was just, and this is high school, remember, not exactly facing the Urlachers of the world in high school, but he's trucking kids. He's knocking kids around. He's a physical kid. I definitely love his upside long term. I think as long as he stays healthy and Ohio State gives him the proper opportunity, and he gets in there and takes over the job quickly, I think you're going to see a kid who probably won't stay long because the NFL will tell him you're ready because he looks so good.
Unless he gets hurt, he's pretty surefire for the first round of the 2020
Probably 2023 or 4. Yeah.
2024 rookie first round. I mean, it's about as surefire as I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, sure.
Now granted, I thought that John Emery and I still somewhat think this was surefire. And then LSU's offense just
Tanked.
like he played behind CEH, and then um they didn't opt out, but they opted out of last year. However you want to say that, but yeah, he's pretty
Yeah,
surefire.
Travion Henderson, OSU, probably the top running back in this freshman class. Jalen Ramsey, we're glad you joined us over from Discord. If you are the real Jalen Ramsey, we appreciate you stopping by.
Now that's got to be Khalil.
I don't know. His name says Jalen Ramsey on YouTube, so that's pretty. I like it.
I think I know who
Yeah,
that is.
okay. All right, so my turn. I'm going to go with a guy that. Oh, nope, maybe not. Hold on. We got a question. Superflex. Keep both Rosen and Jimmy with their QB of the future inbound. Still seems like more QB movement will be happening. Well, we know San Fran's going
Wait, what's the
quarterback. So
question?
basically, uh, it sounds like are you keeping both Rosen and Jimmy with the quarterback of the future coming?
Um,
I have
Garoppolo should end up in a spot where he plays. It almost reminds me of like a Bridgewater situation. I know that was an injury, but it just seems like if he doesn't work out in Frisco for Bridgewater, I think for Rosen it's over. But um, New England could make a play at him, whether he's free or not. Um, you know that someone's going to ultimately fail, and someone's going to also look at it and go, "All right, they were one play from the ship." And granted, he missed a throw on that, but he almost knocked off the mighty Mahomes, and now it's he's trash and get rid of him. And I think there's somewhere in the middle there
yeah, and
is the truth.
well, and so Joss also says he sees Jordan Love and Teddy Bridgewater rumors, and I was poking around on the internet. I see them as well. Teddy Bridgewater, I saw rumors that Denver's going to acquire him during the draft. I saw rumors that the Patriots are going to trade for Jordan Love. Unfortunately, this time of year, you're going to see that kind of smoke screen stuff come out. Does it surprise me? No. I mean, think about it. New England, we all know is in the market for a quarterback of some sort. Whether Cam can develop in year two with their system or not, who knows? But they still have to be looking for the young guy to come in. The same with the Broncos. I mean, for me, I still like Drew Lock, but I don't know that Denver can do anything with him. And I don't know that Denver can do anything with a young quarterback. I feel like they need to find somebody who's been established that can come in and run their offense. So Bridgewater could make sense, but they don't need someone they have to develop because I've yet to see their staff develop any quarterbacks. And that
Yeah.
says a lot. I mean, I still think Drew Lock has some tools, but with the way the quarterback market is right now, they're running out of
If he,
seats.
it seems like a litmus test for him this year. If he fails with those receivers, and I'm considering Font a receiver, if he fails with this in front of him, it might be over.
Sure.
If he succeeds because of the rookie lumps and last year he basically was. I know he was behind, was it Flacco? Yeah, Flacco for half a year,
Yeah.
but um I'm all for patience, but if he fails with this in front of him for a second season, yeah, they would be a spot for a Bridgewater, Garoppolo, someone established who just knows the entry and the exit for, when stuff
Yeah.
happens.
I mean, and it's tough for like I feel for a guy like Locke because it's not like when he came in the league he didn't have a lot to work with. I don't trust the coaching staff when it comes to helping develop a young quarterback. And we knew that coming out, he was going to need some seasoning. Like he wasn't coming in ready to roll based on what he came from in Missouri. So, he needed some development. He had the arm, he had some of the physical tools, and he could get out of the pocket, some escapability, things like that. But, there needed to be more for him, and there just wasn't. And now, it almost feels like the staff has already given up on him because we know they tried to trade for Stafford. We know they're talking about possibly acquiring all these other guys. It's like it sounds like they've already given up on him. It sounds like Darnold 2.0.
Well, I heard that they were flipping like the 10th overall selection or wherever they pick. Honestly, I
Eight.
haven't even looked
I
at
think
the
it's
draft
eight.
because it's such a fluid situation. They offered that for Darnold, and the Jets said no. And then they tried to go back. The Broncos were like, yeah, you passed on that offer, and we realized that we were going to overspend, so no." And then they moved him to
Carolina. Yep.
Carolina. So
Yeah. I feel for you, Jaws. So on that roster that he's got Rosen and Jimmy G, he's also got Drew Brees and Deshaun Watson. Joss,
well, the good news is that Sam Howell can play.
yeah, I'm about to say you may want to be looking at the future and just shooting
Yeah,
for the
Sam
1-1
Howell.
next year.
Sam Howell can play.
Yeah. So there you go, Joss. I feel bad for you, buddy, but sometimes unfortunately fantasy football can be a fickle, fickle beast.
Yep.
We're ready for success one day and failing the next.
Yeah, next year's class you could have 3, 4, or 5 that go in the first. I'm not saying that I know who they all are, but there's enough of them that you kind of look and go, all right, you're going in the second round. You're going probably in the third, and someone's going to move up out of there to, I don't want to say challenge Howell, but put themselves firmly in the first round.
Yeah, Howell's going to be that name to watch as the year goes on. Can he stay at the top of the draft or not? Okay, so if you have questions, other thoughts, comments, feel free to shoot them over. We love to interact with y'all in the chat. I'm gonna go the 20 minutes in. The second running back we're gonna talk about originally had committed to Oklahoma, backed out, is now a Crimson Tide of Alabama. Samar Wheaton. I'm a big fan of him. He's another one of those that was a football track star. He's one of the top backs in Texas, even as a freshman. Like when you look at him statistically speaking, the kid is the prototypical running back size. Very, very fast kid. He's a track star. Big fan. Big play threat in the open field. There's plenty of plays I watched where he was making people miss, but he also, once he gets out there, he's gone. I think he's another strong running back with the ability to catch as well. I think he's kind of a notch below Travion, but I don't think he's far down. I'm a very, very big fan of his. I think I actually wrote an article recently about running backs, Devy running backs that I love, and he was on that list. So I'm a big fan. Samar Wheaton, Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh, he had the name spelled with a C. That's why I'm like, oh my god, I didn't scout him. Um, I have him as RB2 for this year. The acceleration's really nice. And I noted that he was pretty versatile, so he can catch the football. I did. It's hard when you only get a couple minute highlight films, and he was one I wish I found more film on. But yes, if I have him as RB2, that's, yeah, I agree with that sentiment there.
Yeah, I think he's especially just because he's one of those guys that will come into college looking nearly pro ready. So as long as he gets a year or two under his belt and he stays healthy, produces well on that offense, and plays well against the rest of the SEC, I have no problem thinking he would be a first round fantasy running back.
All right. So I would be up next here. I'm assuming we're considering Jatavian Sanders as a receiver
Yeah, I'd kind of thought him
for
as
sake
that,
of
but yeah,
argument.
I when I was putting my list together, that's what I put him as. But it doesn't mean
Yep.
you can't talk
Okay.
about him. I mean,
Yeah, we'll hit him in the receiver group. All right. So I don't necessarily have these sorted in order.
no, yeah.
But Donovan Edwards and Billy Bowman, I think, are just, everyone has them as upper fours, and I think that they're closer to 2 or 3 stars, just because they're both slow for me. And if you don't have the requisite speed, it's hard to get older and get faster. Um, did you like either one of those guys? And one was for Michigan, one was again for
Yep.
Oklahoma.
Um,
I'm not pooping on your Wolverines, but
well, over the last year of this show, I've done enough of that. Billy Bowman, I think, will be interesting in that offense. Donovan Edwards really should be the centerpiece of the Michigan offense, but I think this is the last shot for Harbaugh in my mind when it comes to he's got some really talented kids that he's brought in with J.J. McCarthy, guys like Donovan Edwards. Like, he could fix this thing if he lets these kids go and do what they do best. Edwards is a kid. He actually is the third running back I have on my not in order list of running backs to talk about. So he would have been the next guy I would have talked about as well. My notes on looked really ready. This kid looks ready for a few years now, just waiting his time to get to college and should become a focal point of the suspect Michigan offense. But that could also change with fellow freshman J.J. McCarthy. Explosive as a runner and a receiver. And I did also note that I liked how 247 compared him to Alvin Kamara. Thought that was an interesting comp. I think Kamara's a bit more fast at change of direction, but you know, fun comp.
yeah, I don't have an issue with him from a college perspective. I have an issue with the speed from a do I want you in the NFL? And if I'm going to be selecting for the NFL, I'll let somebody else own him.
Right.
If he works out, okay, I missed. Happens a lot in high school scouting.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to Timothy over on YouTube. He actually brought up the name of the guy that I was bringing up next. The next running back that I was going to talk about was L.J. Johnson from Texas A&M. So shout out to Timothy on YouTube. You got that in there before me, and you are absolutely right. I like this kid a lot too, but I like him as kind of the opposite of some of these other guys. The other guys are really good all-purpose backs, but Johnson is powerful. Like when you watch his film, this kid is he's a pounder. I mean, he really can bang it. Probably more of a downhill back in my mind, but someone who appears to be pretty explosive and very strong. I love his size, and I think the NFL will as well. What do you think about L.J. Johnson from Texas A&M?
Yeah, I saw the same thing. For the size, the fluidity and the hands and stuff are really nice, which is interesting because I was going to bring this up. I do a one per show where I bring things up, and I got an Edgerrin James rookie in the mail. And as I was putting that away tonight, I found a Ray Lewis, which brings me on the real one per show. So I'm just making sure getting those in. But no, he does remind me a little bit of the Edgerrin
Oh, there it is. That's
James
how it
there,
connects. Okay.
where he's just not overly fast, but the overall skill just works. And it's a little hard because he runs. I mean, it's against high schoolers where you can run, where everyone here can run everyone over, but his just seems like it transfers a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'll be interested in seeing how high others feel about him in my drafts in, I don't know, 3 weeks.
Well, and the thing I hope for a guy like LJ when he gets to the next level is that coaches teach him not to go after contact because running backs that look for contact, they're just putting themselves in too much position for shortening their career. Um, I would prefer, don't be afraid of contact, but don't go looking for it. Like if you can make a guy miss and make it and take the house, go. Timothy also commented on YouTube. He said LJ ran a 4.42 laser at the Nike opening verified.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
he
that's
can
sexy right there. I mean, that is
at at his size. Um, it's impressive.
yeah.
He's. I'm a lot more interested. I don't know how rivals and stuff had him as like. I don't have it up in front of me, but they had him as like running back 5 to 8, and I looked at it and I'm like, you're probably 3 or 4, and I think there's a pretty clear line here.
Let's see where they got it. I will pull up rivals right this moment because he really should be in the conversation for probably number 3 would be my guess because of his size and with that speed combination. I didn't notice the 4.42 laser, but
I
that
didn't
doesn't
either.
surprise me, Timothy. Seeing that on there, I mean
Eh,
that's nice.
I guess they have him as second overall rivals at least.
Oh yeah, they got wow,
Okay,
they
they had
have
him
him
over.
over Henderson and Donovan Edwards. That's interesting to me that
Kamar Wheaton was ahead of him also in the 247. I don't like Edwards at all, but okay, he's number 4 on 247, which is okay,
yeah,
fine.
I mean, this is everybody's got their differing viewpoint, but I find it very intriguing that Rivals has that order the way they have it. I mean, Wheaton is the top back in the class is really surprising to me. I mean, I think the interesting thing to me is I thought Travion was kind of ahead over everybody
Wait,
else. No.
what site had somebody over Henderson?
Rivals, when I'm looking at the Rivals 250 for 2021, they've got Wheaton, L.J. Johnson, Donovan Edwards, then Travion Henderson.
Rivals.
Yep, Rivals top
Okay.
250.
Okay. I will
I'm about to say
disagree.
247 does not have that, but again, these are differing scouting services, and they all have their opinions. And at this point in time, okay, I mean, you may think that we don't.
One of the things I did learn, because one of the head guys at 247 is an FSU fan, and he does a team-centric weekly show. And he basically said you don't know when you can scout someone, who you can send, how far you can send them, and are they an accurate enough scout because of COVID, and who plays on the defensive side when and for how
Hmm.
long. Who who's the center who got Rona and sat out? There's a lot of unknown, and I'm not going to sit there and go, "Oh, they have to have Henderson number 1," but when you know how the sausage gets made, okay. And it's one thing that I've learned, even some of the, if you watch a video and you see one of the scouting analysts, if they're standing like a foot from them with the microphone, they're not necessarily asking the question. They're figuring out height. They're basically saying, "All right, we know that you who works for us is 5'8". How was he?" And that's one of the tricks that they use.
Well,
So if you ever watch a recruiting video where, hey, how do you feel about this school, this school, this school, and they're a foot from them, that's what they're doing.
well,
Seriously.
and that wouldn't surprise me in the least because you have to try to get as much information as you can. Like that's if that's how they do it, that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at, so I pulled up 247 as well just to kind of get basically they have the same 4 running backs. I mean the top 4 in the 2021 class for these sites are, Henderson, Wheaton, Edwards, Johnson. Whether it's your orders different or not, I mean those are just kind of the top guys. I mean because both of them have that same group. Now once you get past that, then it changes things a little bit. And they've both got 2 of the guys on my list, both of them have them in the next 3 to 4 players. So, I have a good idea about what kind of the next group of players are after this based on their rankings. But again, this is their freshmen. I mean, when you look at this list of probably 100 to 200 running backs, come NFL draft time, are half of the top 20 going to be considered? Maybe, maybe not. I mean,
Yep, there's going to be someone we haven't even heard of who goes RB4, and you go,
what? Okay, yeah, yeah.
happens every year.
Every year. So that was L.J. Johnson. Who is your next freshman running back?
I'll go with Armani Goodwin out of
Hmm.
LSU. He does lack some size, but he's got a lot of speed, and the foot speed, or the short area foot speed is really nice. I liked out of him. He does have to get bigger and hold the speed, which is always kind of a hopeful versus thinking it's going to happen. But I like him more than a lot of these others.
Yeah, I mean he's compact. I mean he gives me kind of a Henderson from the Rams vibe. Kind of a compact, strong
Yep.
runner. I know that he had an injury. Was it 2018, 2019? I think he had like an ACL, MCL injury. So he's already gotten that out of the way. At least one of his MCLs, ACLs is repaired. I think he does a good job. I think he's got a nice burst. I wasn't the hugest fan of him. He wasn't on my list to talk about tonight. I think he's okay. I'm definitely not super excited about him. But when I look for running backs, I'm looking, the compact running backs don't typically jump on my list. I'm not targeting them, I should say. I normally go, guys that are 5'10" and up, 5'10", 2 something and up, just because they need to be able to handle the workload. In my mind, some of those smaller guys, they just can't handle the amount of beatings they're going to take. And that's nothing against the player; it's just a position they play. So I tend to steer clear unless it's somebody I'm just grossly underrating. I tend to look elsewhere. But this kid's, I mean, from what I can see, I did go back and look through my general notes for my Pinnacle League, and I try to put notes on every player that I'm going after. So. Definitely undersized, but I think he's got some pop, and there's a little bit of burst to him that I like, at least from what I can tell. I haven't researched him for this show, but this was 2 months ago when I looked into him.
As a whole, I know when I said Henderson was one of the few that could go from high school to the NFL again on the practice squad. Let's not overthink that statement.
Right.
Um, you typically have another. That's so let's say that's the top five overall, and that's regardless of the position that they play. You usually have another 20 that are clearly ahead of, say, everyone else, and then there's another 50 or 75 behind that are ahead of everybody else. And then once you get behind that, so you're at about 125 to 150 depending on the year, it's a whole bunch of it's all the same, and we've kind of already reached the it's all the same list. Someone who I respect in scouting, it's the guy who runs the Rivals site, the FSU fan. He pretty much said beyond Henderson, it's a crapshoot, and you're even adding in the guys we hit, Wheaton and the other guys. This year as a whole is not the best for freshman running backs. And you watch the film, and we're already going, maybe not really already on them. And and I like who's the LSU kid's name
Goodwin.
again? Goodwin. I kind of feel that way, and I like him already.
Well, and
So
and
as a whole, it's a short list this
Well,
year.
but we've said about when we were talking about NFL draft and the scouting and how things are so much different with 2020. I mean, some of these kids, I think, could really develop into something special. Uh, but because of the uncertainty and with the inability to do things the way we've done them when it comes to scouting and everything, I mean, there's just going to be that kind of confusion. But a good, solid first season in college, or at least a promising trajectory, that can change quickly with any of these guys. So
Yeah.
I don't doubt it. So when I was building my list of guys to talk about tonight, I'm like, okay, who are the guys that had something that stood out to me where I'm like, okay, there's potential if they maybe do this or this or this that I could see them really develop. Like the next guy I'm going to bring up is a kid that I drafted in the Pinnacle League because I love that he's a big kid and he's very shifty, but he's a little underweight. I would love to see him put on some muscle when he gets to Georgia, which is Lavasi Carroll. Kid came from IMG Academy. That school obviously pumps out college players, but he's big back. He's like 6'1" or 6'2", really elusive, a plus pass catcher. I think he's actually a better pass catcher than he is a running between the tackles guy. but he needs to put on some muscle. I mean, the kid's a bit undersized when it comes to the weight. He's got the size speed, kind of the prerequisite size speed I would expect to see from a running back. And I think he passes the eye test for a lot of guys. Going to Georgia, I think, was a smart move for him because they're really good at developing their running backs. I think, or I should say, they're above average. They're not really good. They're above average. There's other schools that do it better than Georgia, but I think it was a good spot for him to go to. I think he has a fairly solid pathway to playing time. Maybe not significant yet, but definitely some playing time to really help grow. So he's a kid that I'm intrigued in. I obviously drafted him in Pinnacle, so I liked him enough to at least put him on one roster so far. Have you looked at Carroll at all?
Um, I don't have him on my list. I remember the name. There were a couple who I scouted, and I did most of my scouting for this 2 months ago. There were a couple of them who I just didn't add on my list, and I believe he was one of them. Either I didn't like the speed or didn't like the size, or if you need speed and size, a lot of times I'm just not going to add you on my sheet. I'm just going to let somebody else do it. But um, I guess formally I did not scout him, but informally I believe I did.
There you go. Uh,
I don't know.
all right, so who's up next for you? I've got two left that I want to talk about tonight, I think.
Was Evan Pryor a freshman? I didn't write the year down.
Let me look.
Evan Pryor.
I don't think so.
Evan Pryor.
No, he's not a freshman.
Ooh, he is.
No, he isn't. Is he?
Evan Pryor. 2021 class.
Oh.
We'll hit on our second suck eye of the night. I wrote down that he needs more speed, but the move set out of him is really nice. He's more of a. I like him more out of the rest of the, I guess, hamburgers that are here. He's by no means a steak or a porterhouse or anything, but if we're hitting the burger section, I guess I like him a little more. What did you think about Evan Pryor? Obviously, he shouldn't see the field a lot behind Henderson, but in fairness, it might be to keep him healthy, and because he does have more size, he complements Henderson in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, the kid's what, 5'10", 5'11", getting pretty close to 200 pounds. I'm seeing on 247 they've got some verified results. A 4.31 short shuttle's nice. From what I can tell, I was just kind of digging back through my notes a little bit. I said going to Ohio State was going to mess him up, that I expect him to be on a new roster by this time next year. So this would have been This would have been about a month and a half ago.
It might.
Because Henderson, short of an injury, Henderson's really going to kind of block out anybody's real chance because he's solid. He's really solid. So, I wasn't super excited about him. I didn't roster him in Pinnacle. I didn't actually target him. But I thought he looked like a PPR back. I thought he looked better in the passing game than as a pure running back. So, when you think about that going to the next level, maybe Ohio State kind of does the multiple back approach where Henderson's your between the tackles guy, gets more first and second down, where Pryor's your kind of third down type back at some point where you get him some passes out in the flats. Okay, sure. PPR backs have potential and have value. So it gives you an opportunity, and I think he's a guy that you could at least keep an eye on, see how his freshman year goes, and see what Ohio State does. Because their running back room, they just lost their two top running backs into the NFL draft, so there's going to be a lot of vying for snaps, and these kids are both 4+ star athletes, so they come in looking good.
Where did you say you said that they lost him in the draft? Are you saying that what's the big
Master
guy?
Teague and
Are you saying that Teague's going to be selected? Because I don't think
No, I think he's a UDFA. I'm sorry. to the NFL. I think Teague gets on a roster though. I think somebody will put him on a practice squad and
Uh,
see what they've got. Teague's got the size. I mean, he just never really did much in the injuries and all that stuff. I mean, when he had a chance, then all of a sudden Trey Sermon came in and took his lunch money. So, he's probably a UDFA, but I'm sure he's going to be at least on a roster come OTAs or whatever they do.
I got to get my humor in
Right.
however I can get it.
Right. No, very true. All right.
So who did you have?
Next up, I'm going to talk about. I got two backs left that I'm going to talk about. I'll go with Will Shipley first, kid out of Clemson. Another multiple sport athlete, which that always excites me about a player when he plays in multiple sports, especially when it's like track and field, things like that, especially from the running back position. Uh, he's been clocked from what I've been able to see. I haven't been able to personally verify it under 4.5 so far out of high school. Very productive. Made a ton of big plays in high school, so it'll be interesting to see what he does in the ACC. Going to Clemson, I think will be interesting because really they have one running back and then a lot of question marks, and that one running back is only going to be there for one more season. So, and that was he got lucky because of the 2020 stuff. He could play one more year of eligibility because really by now Lynn J. Dixon should be in the NFL. So
Yeah.
so Shipley's an interesting kid to me. It's interesting to me to see what Clemson does next in running back. So I'm willing to take a shot, keep an eye on this kid. Did you look at Shipley at all?
I didn't think that he had the foot speed to make me want him in leagues. And if you're gonna be smaller, you kind of need that. And that's one of those things that you can't really teach. You either have it or no. And if he works out, okay, it'll be on somebody else's roster. But yeah, I did watch him. I didn't like him.
Yeah, and I guess I should throw the other freshman Clemson running back, Phil Maffa, into the conversation as well. Bigger kid, I think he's like 6'2" or 6'1", 6'2", well over 200 pounds already. He's another one. Depending on where you go, he's ranked pretty highly in the running back class. I haven't scouted him as much. I had looked into Shipley before, and Maffa's a guy I've added onto my list to dig into a little bit more after the NFL draft. So, just to put it out there for folks, just in case anybody watches this goes, hey, Clemson got more than one freshman running back this year. They
Yeah.
did.
Um, I did not watch him, but I don't like Shipley and I don't like Dixon. So if anybody else ends up stealing that one, wouldn't surprise me. The bar is not set overly high,
Very true. All right.
especially for what they've had the past 10 years or so.
They've had a lot of good talent.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got next?
I'm actually out of freshmen here. I mean, I'm looking over my list and it's a whole bunch of sophomores, and
Okay.
I I don't have any other freshmen here.
All right. Well, so then I will keep throwing out names because I do have others. But you did mention LSU, but you didn't mention the running back that I would have mentioned from LSU, and that's Corey Kiner. He's kind of a CEH 2.0 in my mind. Compact. He's like 5'10", but he's powerful. He's not. I wouldn't call him a big back, but he's a strong kid. Let me pull my notes out. Let's see here. I thought he had plus vision too.
Yeah, he was one of the ones I watched, but I didn't add. And I like CEH from a pro perspective. If you own him, hold him. I don't want to sit there and go, do I think that an athlete of his ilk is going to make the NFL? I'll believe it when I see it. So I saw a lot of the same things that you did.
Yeah. Okay. After that, I mean, I've got a lot of random names. Kamaro Edwards went to UNC. I think he's an interesting name to watch. I'm not going to dive much into these guys, but these would have been the next tier of kind of guys on my list. there's a couple kids that went to Miami that I wrote to make to take a little bit of a dive on, which is Cody Brown, 6 foot 217, and then Thad Franklin, who's 6 foot 225, and then the kid from that went to Notre Dame, Estime, Audric Estime, I think is his name. Those were all running backs in the next kind of group that when I looked at, both rivals, 247, some of those places, as I was prepping for the Pinnacle League, I was looking through some of those sites, and they're all kind of consensus in the next 10 to 15 running backs. Um, I didn't wind up taking any of them, but they're guys I'm going to start digging into a little bit more. They're not high on my list to dig into, but there's some names to keep an eye on for those of you, especially when you're thinking about UNC. Edwards is intriguing to me because UNC lost all of their running back production to the NFL draft, and these guys will both be drafted, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. So UNC's got a hole to fill there, and with Sam Howell, the offense can be strong if they have a running back that can be productive. If a guy like Edwards or somebody can make a name for himself, it's intriguing to me. So it'll be interesting to see how all that goes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they do have at least a nice history with it with Brown
mm-hmm.
there now.
Yep. So,
So it's a nice home because he should see the field.
absolutely. So there you go. So there's a bunch of freshman running back, and that's not even. I mean, that's not even a tenth of the list. I mean, when you go to some of those major scouting sites, they've got. I mean, you can get hundreds of freshman running back. Um, I'm not digging into too many of them until I see something that makes me think I need to. But I'm just scrolling through. I've already gotten to. I'm at the 200 mark, and there's still more to look at. I want to see. I want time to weed that out for me.
I it does suck that we kind of have to give ourselves multiple mulligans here. Number one, we're scouting freshmen. No one knows how this is going to work out. Two, uh, the pros from the sites were having problems with it scouting because of COVID. Um, I think it's going to work out as Henderson and a couple of these others and everyone else. It would not surprise me at all if there's four names that we didn't even mention that are firmly considered in the second or third round in 3 years or 4 years. No one knows how COVID affected everybody, and this is just sadly one of the rip. I mean, this is one of the ripple effects
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah,
it.
I mean, and the professionals. You keep saying that the professionals. We
Yep.
may act like professionals a little bit, but we're not. We have to do even more work to try to study these guys because we don't have the same ability to look into these players. So we are, downstream a little bit here, trying to eat the scraps from the big guys. It takes a lot more work for us to look into players. So we are doing the best we can, and we will update you as we can, and we will talk, as we get into post NFL draft. We're going to start talking more, kind of where we rank guys when it comes to Devy rankings, and these guys might show up on the list. I know some of my articles on RotoHeat.com. I've got some Devy articles up there that have, names like Samar Wheaton and Travion Henderson involved. But,
Yeah.
we'll get there. It takes time, but you keep sticking with us, and we will keep giving you information, and you'll be ready to roll.
Yeah. Hopefully it works out in a couple years. And I know I'm bringing up FSU as a Florida State fan, but um, I know for a fact that with their money and just overall situation, they were having issues with height, weight, speed verified on some of the players. If you're seeing, yes, they might not be good for this season. If you're seeing schools with top 15 recruiting budgets set up having issues with the basics, scouting is going to be off.
Agreed.
I know a lot of the states you couldn't travel for. That's a hard sell to sell your school. It's hard to, and if the guys who the paycheck is from are having problems with that much of the basic info, okay, you get what you get and you move on.
Right. Well, and and the great thing is that these are freshmen, so we're going to get 2 years plus of these guys. So there's plenty of time to dig into them a little bit more and keep an eye on them. These names that we gave you tonight are definitely names to keep on your watch list. Pay attention to them throughout the off season. If you're in a super deep Devy league, take a flyer on them. That's fine. I don't knock you for that. Make sure you be mindful about it. But most Devy rosters aren't deep enough to take freshmen at this point. Travion Henderson would only,
Besides
yeah,
Henderson.
besides Henderson would be the only one we would say definitely make sure is on your roster if you can get a share because he is the elite of the elite talent in this group. But don't tell Joe because he's an Ohio State guy. So there's that. We will keep you updated as best we can. Now, obviously, there's not going to be a show next week. Devy hour wise because it's NFL Draft Night 1. So remember, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to be doing a live mock draft after round 1 on Thursday night. So come back to YouTube, come back to RotoHeat, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date. We are going to go live as soon as the draft ends on night 1, night 2, and night 3, and we're going to mock. So if you need to see immediate information and immediate mocking, we are here to mock with you. So we are going to be doing it as soon as the night ends. 12 team mock draft. It's going to be fun. It'll be a good time. Next week on Monday's show and Tuesday's show, we've got some fun planned. So make sure you come back and check out Monday's IDP show, Tuesday's Dynasty show. Tuesday's Dynasty show, our special guest is Addison Hayes from, I believe he's DLF. And if Addison watches and it's not, I apologize, man. It's been a while since we talked last. I'll know by Tuesday because I always prepare myself for our special guest. And Addison is a special guest. He's been on the channel before. We love him. He's a good dude, quality guy, and it'll be fun. So stick with us. You'll see Paul and I on Monday night. We're going to be having some fun with the IDP stuff as we get draft week going. Otherwise, we love you guys. We appreciate you hanging out and blowing up the chat and having some fun tonight. There's some freshman running back. Next time you see us, we'll be talking freshman wide receiver. Take care of yourselves. We love y'all. Peace.